This video will help you to get started with this lesson assignment. If we take a look at the detail, there are a lot of circles, diameters that are picked up in the side views and the front view. So we, for instance, won't know the diameter of this bigger circle from this top view. We'll have to find it here in the side view as 5.75 diameter. And also here in the front view we have several other circle diameters that are based on these circles in the top view. So let's get started by creating layers. We can go to layer properties, and these are the layers that I've already created except for def points. Def points is a layer that's created by AutoCAD the first time that you place dimensions. So you won't see them until later on when you start placing dimensions. And we'll keep layer 0 here empty so that we can use that later on when we talk about other topics. So we need a layer called center and another one for our dim text. That would be the one that we're going to put the dimensions and the text on. We're going to take a look at hatch, which is this cross hatching right here that fills in this boundary and represents the section cut through this part. We have a layer called hidden and one for our objects. So as we did before, we're going to make the objects layer a bolder line so that the objects will be printed bolder. We can see that in the print preview. So for the objects layer, once you create these layers, and you can always pause the video and go ahead and create these layers, you can click on the line weight default and change the line weight for the object layer to 0.60. Then you can highlight the hidden layer and pick here on the word continuous. We did this once before. You can then load that line type. So for the hidden layer, I'm going to pick the word continuous, pick load, scroll down to highlight hidden right there and load it. Once you load it, you have to then select it here so that that layer becomes hidden and pick OK. Same thing with the center layer. So you would highlight center, pick here continuous for the line type, pick load, scroll down to center and load that. Then here select center and pick OK so that that layer is the center layer. I also changed the color for each one of these layers. You don't have to use the same colors that I am using, but it's a great way to keep your project organized so that you can see that things are on the right layer. You definitely want to keep things off of this def points layer, which will come later when you add dimensions, because you can see here that it won't plot. Because we're going to be drawing objects, let's double click on a little sheet of paper to the left of the objects layer. And I can close out of this and kind of verify that objects here is the top one in this drop down, making it current. Now I'm just going to start drawing all these circles. Here I'm going to start the circle center diameter command. I'll click a point in space and type in 5.75 and enter. And that's the diameter here on the side view that represents the biggest circle. We also have in the front view here a diameter of 4.25 and a couple of other ones. So we'll go to circle center diameter, go to the center of this circle and click and type in 4.25 and enter. Again, circle center diameter, click 3 and enter for the 3-inch diameter down here, and then again circle center diameter, click for a center point and type in 3.749 and enter. So we have several circles here that represent different things, and we know that two of these circles, the two inside circles, are going to be hidden. So I'll just select those lines and then come over to my layer drop down and pick right on the word hidden, so that they go to the hidden layer, and use my escape key to get rid of the grips. Okay. Now we can start to create offsets to establish where the other circles are. We can start the line command, and because I have here the object snap quadrant on from the last time that we worked together, I can pick the bottom of the circle and the top of it, and then right click and enter. And if you want to start the line command again, you can right click and repeat the line command to click on the quadrant here and here. I'm just setting up these lines so that I can create these offsets. So now I can use the offset command. I'll start the offset command and I'll type in 1.768 and enter. 1.768 will help me to establish these smaller circles. I'll click here the center line and go up, click the center line again and go down, and this one again. Also, I'm going to select the center line and click to the right, and this one to the left. I could then now draw the circles, why not, so that I know that they're at the intersections of these lines. The circles are 5/16 socket head screws. That's what this is, but it doesn't really show where what the other dimension is for this countersunk hole, but technically you could probably look it up to find it. I'm going to use 5/16 for one of them as a diameter. So circle center diameter, I'm going to go ahead and click and type in 5/16. So that 5/16 represents the hole down here that's in the bottom. So I'll use 0.5 or a ½ inch for the countersunk depth circle. So I'll go ahead and pick circle center diameter. I'll click here the center and I'll type in 0.5 and enter. That is not on the drawing anywhere, so I'm going to use 0.5 to move forward. Now you can go ahead and draw this several times, or what I'm going to do is use copy so that you can experience using copy. I'm going to start the copy command here, select these two circles and enter, because my command line says select objects, and I'm done. And then I'm going to pick the base point where I want to pick up these circles. So the center of the circles that I'm copying right here is going to be the base point. You can see it's on the end of my pointer. I'm going to go ahead and click here, here, and here. And then right click and pick enter to get done with the command, or use your escape key. Okay, so just to keep it a clear drawing, I'm going to go ahead and delete these 4 lines that we used. I'll select them with those grips, and then you can right click and pick erase. You can pick erase icon, or you can pick delete on the keyboard. Now I have an offset of 0.75 for these other 2 circles. So I'll start the offset command, type in 0.75 and enter. I can select the center line and pick to the right, and select the center line and pick to the left. We have here the circles as a diameter here of 0.625. So circle center diameter, I'll click here and type in 0.625, and then I'll just go ahead and draw it again. Circle center diameter, click 0.625. Okay, so I'm starting to build these objects that are a part of this detail. I can keep my project clean by selecting these objects here that I don't need and pick erase. I do have an offset for these 2 lines, or at least I have these 2 lines here that are 1.25 right there. It's that kind of like little notch down at the top. It is suppressed, and that's what this is supposed to represent in the section. So half of 1.25 is 0.625. So I'll start the offset command, type in 0.625 and enter, which is half of 1.25. I'm going to select this line and pick above it, select this line again and pick below it. Now I can use trim or grips. That's what I'll use because this section is about using grips as a possibility. So I'm going to select these two lines and use the blue boxes or grips at the end. Notice when I click inside that grip, it becomes red and it becomes kind of like a base point. But I'm using now the stretch option to stretch this line back. I'll do it again here. Click, pull my mouse over and click. Here, click, click to stretch that line back to the intersection of the circle. Use my escape key to get rid of the grips. So we're moving right along here. We have now the objects for the top circle. We can start to create this bottom section. I used tracking because tracking will help us to avoid a lot of offsets. And so if you really take a look here, we have a diameter of 4.25, which comes from this second circle. I can start to work with that. I have to be careful though here because the detail is 2.75, but there's still a small piece here at the bottom. So we have to make sure that we use both the 2.75 and the 2.38. So I think what I'll do is start with the 2.75 here and offset it up and then work my way down a little bit in these details. So I'll start the line command and someplace down here I'm just going to go ahead and click a point. Pull my mouse across and click another point just to establish some kind of base. Some of you may do this a different way. It's possible that you could draw half of it and then mirror over the other half. Mirror the image over to the other half. But I like to get the experience with offset with you, so I'm going to go ahead and start the offset command. Type in 2.75 and enter. Select this line and pick up here. Now that's going to be for this dimension here. So if I start the line command and I rest my pointer at the edge of this bigger circle, I can pull my mouse all the way down to that bottom line and click, pull my mouse up and type in 1 and enter. You see how I have this 1 at the top? And just so that I don't have to create all these different dimensions, I'm going to end the line there because I can draw another line from the 4.25 diameter right here. I'm just going to rest my pointer right at the quadrant of the second solid circle, pull my mouse down and click, and then here I'm going to use tracking. Tracking is awesome. I'm just going to rest my pointer at the end of this line that I drew that's 1 inch and pull my mouse back over until these two tracking vectors show for the intersection and click. See that? Now I can come back and click. Right click and pick enter. So I was able to use this circle right here to drop a line and this outer circle to drop a line and then draw a line between them. If you find it to be easier to do it a different way, then that's fine too. Okay, I still didn't draw the smaller part at the bottom, so let's take a look at this dimension over here in the side view of 3. 3 should give us a height, since this is kind of a side view, from the very top of this section to the very bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and start the offset command, type in 3 and enter. Use this top line as my object to offset and pull my mouse down and click. there's that bottom line right there. Right click and enter. Okay, I can do the same thing on the other side, or I can use mirror. I think I might use mirror just so that you can get that experience. First, maybe I'll draw this little line right there. I know that it's based on the first hidden line. So I'll start the line tool, rest my pointer right here at the quadrant of the first hidden line going in. Don't click, just pull your mouse straight down until it hits right down here at the very bottom. Click, pull your mouse up to that short line and click, and then enter. Now there are here corners that we need to establish, like fillets, and over here you can see this note is a chamfer that we'll get a little bit later on. Right now we're just going to draw the corners straight. I can use grips, why not, to pull this line or stretch it back. I can stretch this one here back and even this bottom one. Because I'm going to mirror this to the other side, I think I'll also grab this longer line and stretch it back to complete this profile. I didn't use mirror to create the other one that I did before this video, but there's so many different ways of creating this detail. It's completely up to you. I'm just giving you an option. So the 3-inch diameter is based on this inside hidden line. So I'll start the line command and just rest my pointer here at the inside hidden line at the top view. Pull my mouse straight down here and click at the bottom. I can pull my mouse up then and type in 2.38, it looks like, and enter. And then because I'm only going halfway, because I'm going to mirror it, I can either type in 3 and go all the way, or what I'll do is I'll just track from the center line here, come down and click, so that I can draw half of it and enter. Okay, might as well grab these 2 lines for the circle on this side, and then we'll mirror the whole thing. We can start the line tool, rest your pointer here at the quadrant of the smaller circle, pull your mouse down and click, and down and click. We are going to need to clean up this top part because that's that 0.12 here part that's kind of indented down. And again, start the line command, rest your pointer here at the quadrant of the circle, come down and click, and down to the bottom line there and click and enter. So this is drawn in section, and when you draw it in section, it could be represented as a little corner notch out here. We can first start with the offset of 0.12. So I'll start the offset command, type in 0.12 and enter, select this top line here and pick down. So this top 0.12 right here is based on this notch, this kind of indent right here of the part. And based on the top view, it actually starts right here because the curve sets back a little bit. So I'm just going to rest my pointer there, pull my mouse straight down until I hit the top line and click, and then pull my mouse straight down and click. That's that little corner there that we're going to trim out. So we can start the trim command actually and trim this corner out. And while we're at it, trim these 2 lines for the hole right here in section. Let's go ahead and mirror these objects. So I'm going to start the mirror command right here in the modify panel. You can type in the whole word mirror, or you can find out what the quick keys are for it. I'm going to go ahead and start the mirror command. Because I want to pick up all these elements but maybe not these lines, I'm going to click in space on the left side and let go and pull my mouse across these objects and click so that just these objects are selected and not these 3 lines, and enter. Now I'm going to click the center line of the circle at the top there, pull my mouse straight down and click, and then enter, because we don't want to erase the source objects right there. Cool. Now if you want to draw it a different way, that's fine. I just didn't mirror this one over here. I only drew it with offsets and tracking. So I'll use the trim command now to trim these extra pieces out. I should have the profile minus the fillets and the chamfer. If you look close on the handout, the bottom 2 corners are of a chamfer. It's 45 degrees, but it's actually 0.06 for the first chamfer and the second chamfer. So let's go ahead and do that. We can go up here and start the chamfer command. Click multiple, because we have 2 of them, and click then distance. Or you could type in M and enter. You can see that it was entered right there. And then D and enter. Now the first chamfer distance, we can type in 0.06 and enter. But then there's a second chamfer distance. You have to pay attention to the command line so that you can press enter to accept the second chamfer distance as 0.06. Now I can click on these 2 lines to get this corner chamfer right there, and these 2 lines to get this corner chamfer. We also have a fillet radius right here of 0.12. So I'll go back here and pick up fillet. With the fillet command, I'm going to click on multiple, and then I'm going to click on radius and type in 0.12 and enter. Now I'm ready to select these 2 lines here and here to create the fillet on this corner. So the way that this section is drawn is that even though in plan the circle is not here, to represent the circle here, the smaller circles or the counter bore in section, they kind of like rotated it or had a circle here that we could drop down to show it in section. So when they cut the section through here, they kind of zigzagged over to pick up the way that it would look here if it was at the end. So what I'm going to do is create another circle right here, 2 circles, and drop that down so that I can draw it here. One way to do that is to start by drawing a 2-point circle that goes through these four smaller circles. So another way of drawing a circle is using 2 points. I'll pick the center of this circle and the center of the one opposite it, and now I have my intersection that I can copy this circle over to and then drop it down for this hole. So I'll start the copy command, select here these 2 smaller circles and enter. Pick the base point that's right at the center of those 2 circles, and then come over here and click. Now these are all temporary. I'm going to go ahead and escape out of that so that I can easily drop here the tracking down in order to pick up this hole. And we know that the bottom part of this is 0.61. So I'm going to start the line command and rest my pointer on the quadrant of the smaller circle. And you have to kind of be careful about this tracking. If you want to just go ahead and draw the line and then trim it later, you could. But here I want to make sure that I start right there where it intersects the inside line. I'm going to click, pull my mouse up and type in 0.61 and enter. Then I'm going to do that again. So I'll start the line command. I'll rest my pointer on the inside circle quadrant, come all the way down here, click, and then I could track up to the top right there, but just to keep it simple, I'll pull my mouse up and type in 0.61 and enter, and pull my mouse over and click. That's the bottom part here. The top part is just the outside circle. So I can start the line command, rest my pointer here on the outside small circle, the outside circle, come down until I hit the top right there and click. And now this is where I am going to use tracking. I can just rest my pointer on that corner, pull my mouse over and click, and then pull my mouse over and click. There's a little bit of an extra line there, but that's okay. If you wanted to stretch this line over to it, that's an option also. So I'll start the line command, rest my pointer on the quadrant of that bigger circle here, pull my mouse straight down until I hit the top line there and click, and then track over down here and click, and come across and click here. So there's my counter bore, the hole, and where you would then have that countersunk screw. Okay, we're ready to use the hatch command and show you how to use hatch. That would be this kind of pattern that's inside a closed shape. I created a layer for it, so if you didn't do that, let's go ahead and create a layer for it. I'll go back to layer properties just as a way of talking about it. We're creating a layer called hatch, and over here I'm going to change the line weight to 0.15 because usually the hatch pattern is a little bit lighter. But I'll make that one current, so double click on the little sheet of paper here. And then the hatch pattern is right here in the draw panel. You can type in hatch also to work with that command. I'm going to maximize my screen to show you that the whole panel will change when you start the hatch command. You'll have several hatch patterns, and in fact you can click on this little arrow to get so many more here. You have gradients that you can change the color, you get the honeycomb, and all of these different types of hatch patterns. Keep in mind that the ones that start with AR are going to be a lot bigger because those are the architectural ones. So if you're working with a small detail like this, you could be like inside one brick of that pattern. But according to this, it kind of looks like the default, which is ANSI 31. And by default, you're basically using this pick points where you're putting your pointer inside a closed boundary, and it automatically will pick it up for you. So you can go ahead and click and pull your mouse over to this other piece here and click, and then this third piece and click. As long as your boundaries are closed, you should be able to select those three boundaries to place this hatch. But while we're here, I should show you that there is an angle and there's a scale that you can change, and several other tools that you can use, like transparency. Another, I think, option that's good to know is that you can create separate hatches right here. So right now, because I clicked on all three of these boundaries are going to be all one piece. But later on, if you needed to delete one of them, you could separate the hatches. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pick the close hatch creation button, or you could click out in space and minimize this a little, adjust it so that we can get back to this detail. Oh, I did miss this piece right here. So I'm going to go ahead and start the hatch command again. I'm already in that pattern. I'll just come over here and click, and then right click and enter. So I thought I'd start dimensioning this a little bit with you, but I'm going to only draw these two views, and then I'll leave you to draw this side view, and I'll set up the dimensions with you. So let's go back to layers and make the dim text layer current. Drop this list down and click right on dim text. What you'll notice is that when you go to annotation and use linear and you start to place these dimensions, we've got a dimension from the center here to the center here of 0.75. You'll see that Most of them are going to be the default, but I had to change some things, so let's just do it right now. You'll see that there is no zero. There's no zero that's leading or before the decimal. So if you type in, let's everybody go ahead and type in D and enter, and pick the modify button, and then these are all of the tabs we said we'd be coming back to a lot more when we change it to architectural. And in this drawing we're going to do work with some of the tools like this one here. Let's put a check mark in leading for the zero suppression. That way we'll get like 0.61 instead of 0.61, and pick OK. Now I'm leaving the precision 4 places to the right because I'm going to show you other ways of changing it. So linear, for those, I'm going to let you go ahead and finish some of these, but I'm going to go ahead and at least pick up this point 1.7680, and then I know that I can erase this 2-point circle, and I can erase this circle here because I only used it as a reference. Now one thing I would like to show you here is that the precision for this dimension is actually 3 places to the right. So anytime that you have a dimension that is a little different from the style, you can select that dimension, right click, and go to precision and change this one to 0.000. You see, so that individual dimension precision was changed in the right click menu. We can also use the diameter dimension to place this note. So I'm going to go ahead and click diameter. I'm going to pick the inside circle right there, pull my mouse over and click. Now the note is nothing like that, but I can double click and completely delete that text and start to, with my cap locks on, start to type in the note. I'll let you go ahead and type in the rest. Same thing down here, but this one's a little different because we have this tolerance. So I'll do that one with you. We can go to diameter again, pick this circle that's towards the center there, pull your mouse down and click. And because this dimension is different and the right click menu doesn't have the tolerance, we can select the dimension, right click, and go to properties. So remember those tabs when we typed in D and enter and we picked modify? When you select a dimension and right click and pick properties, you have here this properties palette that gives you all of these different sections that are similar to the tabs in the dimension style. So you can click on these little arrows to open and close them, but what we want to do is come down to this tolerance right here. The tolerance display here, instead of using none, you can just rest your pointer here on these and see that you'll need deviation right there to get the limits of plus and minus for the tolerance, which is this dimension right here. And when you take a look at this properties palette, you can see that the upper limit right here needs to be changed to 0.0005. So I just went ahead and changed the 0 to 5, and now when I click, you can see that it's 5 right there. So if you take a look at this, you'll see tolerance, suppress, leading 0. I'm going to go ahead and pick yes. And then we can take that little 0 out of there to get it right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close out of this properties palette and double click on this dimension. Now this one we don't want to replace completely. We want to use our arrow keys to arrow over so that the blinking cursor right there is on the right hand side, so that we can press enter and continue with our note. I think it's okay to leave the diameter, the circle with a line through it, instead of typing in DIA. So we could just type in through and then 2 holes and click in space. We can use that same tool for this dimension at the bottom, and it looks like the rest of this detail is something that you can dimension based on what we've already learned, and also the side view by using tracking and the dimensions that are in place. Okay, remember when you want to add text, you just double click and you use the arrow key to have the blinking cursor at the far right side so you can type in this DIA. And also, since we have a center line layer, I'm going to go ahead and select this line and go to the drop down and move it to the center line. There it is. You might actually want to back these linear extension lines up so that you can see the center line. So you can select the dimension, use these grips to pull that extension line up so that you can see the center line, right like that. Right, the only other thing here might be to put center marks in here. This is kind of a crazy thing, is that when you use here the diameter and radius from the linear drop down, you're putting the default center mark for the dimension style. But if you go over to the annotate tab up at the top, we do have a center mark here. If you select center mark and then go to the bigger circle there, you see how it puts the center mark inside the circles? We could probably do that for all of them, although this one will have 2 of them on it. One way to avoid that is to turn the one off in the dimension style. So we could do that, just because I know somebody's going to be bothered by that center mark being over the top of the other one. So type in D and enter, pick the modify button. Plus, this is good to know. Go to the symbols and arrows tab and then pick none for the center marks that go with the diameter and radius underneath linear. I'll pick none and pick OK and close. And you see how it kind of opens up and becomes just the center mark here. Okay, I just drew this one here as a way of getting to know this detail. So go ahead and continue this detail by dimensioning it and creating this side view and giving it a title. The title is going to be the assignment number with your name underneath it, like we did with the other videos. We'll go to multi-line text here, and at this point I know it's not in the drawing, so we can go ahead and pick 2 points, type in assignment, and I think it's 13, and then your student name, highlight assignment 13 by holding your left mouse button down and dragging it across it and picking U for underline, and then click in space. I'm going to finish the presentation by talking to you a little bit about changing the scale of your dimensions, and this is kind of a tie-in to scale factors and also drawing your text a little bit bigger, because these look kind of small, right? So if you type in D and enter and you pick the modify button, you'll see in the fit tab there's an overall scale that will help you to adjust the scale of your dimensions. So I'm going to change that to maybe 1.5. When we start to talk about architectural drawings and being able to establish a scale factor based on a scale, we'll see that this number is a little more specific. I'm going to go ahead and change it to 1.5 and take a look. It looks like that might work and be comparable to what to what the assignment is. And it's okay if the arrows are on the outside. The default is set up to fit, for the arrows to fit within the extension lines, and if it doesn't, then it pops out and goes on the outside. So if you think 1.5 is too big and you want to go to 1.25, you can go through to change that scale. But also, the text is a little bit too small, I think, and the default is 0.2. So when you're placing multi-line text, you can change the height, or you can change it after you already placed it. So I'm going to show you those two different ways. So here I'm going to go to multi-line text. I'm going to pick a point for the first corner and then stop and look at your command line. One of the options is height. So all I did was start the multi-line text and click a point, and now I'm going to pick height. And I'll try 0.4, which is twice the size of the default, and enter. Pretty big. I'll go ahead then and pull my mouse over to the right and click. Now, with my cap locks on, I can type in here the information. And it's really important that you click in space to see how big it is, because sometimes the editor is too big. So look, it's way too big. But since I've already placed it, I can double click on it. I can highlight it, and then this is kind of the tricky part. Up here at the top left, you can click right on that number 0.4 and change it. Maybe it's 0.3 and enter. And see how it kind of adjusts itself, and then click in space. So I'll get rid of this one and I'll use this one. Just drag it over here. And eventually with all of your notes, you might want to change it. So again, up to you if you want to change the height to 0.25 and for the text, and the scale, instead of using 1.5, you want to use 1.25, whatever works for what you would like it to look like, comparable to this drawing. Okay, hope that helps you to get a good start on this detail that we're doing for this lesson.